Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Metal Freedom. I'm your host, Trey Hill, and we've got a great guest, Lenny Bruce from Dust Bolt. I really dig this band. They're kind of a modern version of really heavy and like thrash and other categories that I just dig. So, without further ado, let's get him on here. What's up, brother?
Yeah. Hey, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah, we kind of missed our window last week. We had our times kind of screwed up, but that's fine. That was probably my fault. But no, I got you here, and I'm looking forward to talking some metal music with you. And yeah, so tell me a little bit about Dust Bolt and some of the startings of that band.
Oh, that's actually been some long time ago. Um, I mean, even though I'm still quite young in the metal in terms of the metal business, we started when we were 13 years old with more or less this band. So it was kind of like me having a teenage dream of, starting a band, becoming a musician, and being a rock band. So I reached out to just the guys around me in school, and yeah, it happened really like fast and natural. Then that like 4 years later, we would have our first European tour
Oh wow.
and be actually doing it as Dust Bolt. So it's kind of like a band that started really in high school days together, teenage band, and over the years we're kind of like 18, 19 years active now. And we had 5 albums out. We toured in the States, we toured in Asia, we toured a lot in Europe and Germany. And I mean, we still keep going. We always continue to write music and to make music and release music and play shows. So it's actually at some point it became a part of our life really early,
Hmm.
and it's still part of our identity and what we do. So Dust Bowl is kind of like it's a thing that's with me my entire life, more or
Hmm.
less.
Hmm.
It's a big part of me, yeah.
Right on, right on. So, let me ask you a little bit about some of the types of music that you're kind of currently into, or even that you were into before you started Dust Bowl.
Well, I grew up around like typical 80s and 90s music. My parents were like listening to radio, and they were listening to stuff like Bruce Springsteen and Neil Diamond and stuff. So music was always around, and I was a huge Prince fan when I was a kid.
Right on.
And for me, it was always guitar music for sure. It was guitar music and drums. Guitar and drums. There was like two things that always, were the most attractive to me. And then, by time when you're like 12, 13, you start buying your own records, you start getting your own CDs. I came into Nirvana and Green Day and everything that was around it at that time. We still had MTV going, so I explored System of a Down and Slipknot. So that was the first contact to real like brutal metal stuff and people screaming, and it was like, wow, this is crazy.
Hmm.
So I got the
Hmm.
CDs, and then I did the research, and then I was like, oh, there was earlier bands like Slayer and all the thrash bands and Anthrax, and of course I did know Metallica, but I just knew the
Hmm.
stuff from the radio. I just knew Enter Sandman and Nothing Else Matters, of course, Black Album.
Right,
And then, like,
right.
being 13, 14, starting to play the guitar, starting to become a nerd, starting to become
Right,
a metal fan. Yeah, you
right,
just
right.
you start buying CDs, you start just going into it like everything you got. I was just like so like when this door opened to metal music, it was just over. I was
Right. You
so
were in it to
enthused.
win it.
Yeah, I was so enthusiastic. I just wanted to know everything. So I kind of like started to go back in time and go back to the 80s, and then I explored all the thrash stuff, all the, all the CDs, all the albums where everything was coming from,
Mhm.
and got really interested in that. And it's still going. It's still going. I mean, now it's for me. I'm open to any kinds of like guitar music, probably. Um, Now for me, it's I go back and listen to BB King and
Right.
to the beginnings of guitar music, to the blues stuff.
Mhm.
So that's the cool thing about music, is there's so much good music out there. It's never like it never stops. You always like explore a new
Right.
record that does something to you.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's been so many different, even growing up, I listened to a lot of different stuff. Led Zeppelin. I listened to
Yeah.
even God, even like um, Fleetwood Mac and
Yeah, of
all
course.
of that. I mean, some of that stuff that's it's timeless. I mean, like Meatloaf. I
Absolutely.
mean, I'm a big Meatloaf fan. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
But and it's funny because um, I discovered some of that music when my sisters were like 10, 9 years older than me. And they would listen to that stuff back when I was like in kindergarten, and then I
Yeah.
would you know listen to their albums and stuff when they would I'd be in the room when they would play it, and it was like that that music is kind of infectious. And
Yeah.
same when you were talking about Slayer and Exodus, and when I first started listening to that, it was God, that was like an awakening. It was like I was in it to win it. And after that, it was kind of like all
Yeah.
bets are off. And then I started trying to play guitar, and then I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. It was that type of music to me. And I don't know if you would probably would agree that that's thrash music, heavy metal, all that stuff, like the British Invasion with Judas Priest, all that
Oh yeah.
stuff is trend setting. And I think that when people jumped on that, when you jumped on that and you were just like, wow, and all the avenues that you took, how much influence do you think you have now compared to when you were just starting out? Like, I mean, do you tell people, hey, you got to check this out? If you're getting in, starting in a band, or this is something that's going to be really good for you to listen to if you want to open your mind. Do you have a band or bands that have done that to you, where it's opened your mind?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, probably it's always been like that, that for me, the mind-opening stuff was going back to the beginnings of something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like going back to where like what was the time, if I find like a thrash record that I
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
um, for example, if I like Slayer,
Mm-hmm.
then I started to become interested in, okay, but what did those guys like?
Right, right,
What
right,
did them make him
right.
write songs like that? And then it might be some interesting stuff you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
It might be some stuff that has nothing to do with metal, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna check this out and understand how they came from this to that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like it's the same thing, for example, for Motorhead, because I always like heard that Lemmy was like a big fan of Little Richard,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, who's this guy, Little Richard? I gotta know, I gotta figure it out. And so I came back to kind of like the beginnings of rock and roll music and the beginnings of guitar music, and then you check that music out, and then you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. It
Right,
speaks it
right.
speaks to me. And then you go back and you listen to Motorhead, and you listen to Judas Priest, and suddenly you understand, like, wow, that's where they came from, and
Mm-hmm.
everything's starting to make sense. And this is like, that's for me always like the mind-opening stuff, is if I go back to some real classics, even if it was like when I explored Grateful Dead. It was a like, for me as a musician, it was like a whole world opening up, because they improvise so much. They got so many live albums, there's so much stuff to explore. That was like, oh, okay, wow. And it subconsciously, or it does something to your writing and to the music that you're doing and writing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Even though if it might be thrash metal,
Mm-hmm.
it's just something in the back of your mind that you kind of like become a more probably a better musician, the more material you know and the more material you're into.
Right. Or that you're subjected to,
E-
or that
ex-
you, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So I talked to a couple other band members from different bands over the last couple months, and they all kind of, when it comes to like thrash metal music, it kind of all comes around to the main bass line, and some of that, the core of that is classical music.
Oh,
So, and I look at that and I'm like, I kind of knew that years ago, but listening to some of the newer stuff now, like your guys's, and even Trader, who I just interviewed last week,
cool.
and they talked highly of you, and they said that classical music for them was, it's an influence. And
Yeah,
so when I look at it and talking about all these other musicians over the years, even going back to the Beatles, or even going back to, like you said, Little Richard,
yeah,
and whatnot, just like Led Zeppelin, they started with some of that blues music. Robert Plant was, you know infectious with that whole rhythm that he had in him. That he got a lot of it from some of that old, you know, blues music. And it's amazing nowadays to see that, bands like yours, and with some of the great stuff that you guys have been putting out. Um, is there a song that you've written that you really think that, hey, that's like one of my favorites, or do you have any favorites, or do you just like them
um it's always kind of like, for me, it's always like a real weird relationship to the own material. So that's a funny story. I just, like, a few weeks ago, I got I got drunk with our guitar player, with Flo. We were just having a nice evening, we cooking food and drinking something, and it was a great night. And suddenly he came up and he was like, "Dude, you know what we're gonna do now? We're gonna listen to our second album, Awake the Riot, on vinyl."
on?
And
Nice.
then we did this, and we were like, "Wow, man, we didn't do this for like 10 years probably." Because once the music is done, once you wrote a song and you bring it out, it's somehow out there and it's not yours anymore.
Hmm.
And I kind of like, I don't look back.
Okay.
I don't really look back. I'm just more like, okay, what's the next one? What's the next move? What's the next thing? So it's always like going forward. So
Hmm.
it's just like, the creativity and the ideas, they like sum up, then you release some of that stuff, and then the next ideas have space to come, and then you
Hmm.
just keep going and keep going. That's It's always been like that for me. And
Right.
so I need some time and some space to be able to look back and listen to it and be like, wow, what did we do there, and
Hmm.
it was a real cool thing to do and a funny thing to do, because there was so much time, like, in between. In this 10 years, I didn't take the time in this 10 years to just sit down and listen to our own album,
Hmm.
after it's been released. And it was like, it was really interesting. It was really interesting. I was like, wow, this is a cool song. I didn't think of that song for, like, in all those years, but it's a great song. I love it. It was some stuff I was like, wow, I'm really proud of that. How did I do it? I can't do it anymore. How the fuck did I do it?
Hmm.
So it's always like a weird relationship for me, to the own music. It always takes some time. I can, you know
Right.
look back at it.
Right. Right. So, talking about, you say you like to move forward, which I could totally agree with in that sense, because you know I've noticed that some music over the time, even back when I was in high school, back in the 80s, it seems like music kind of comes around every so many years. Would you agree that some thrash metal was starting to really make a kind of a comeback or come around again from when it was like back in the 80s and early 90s?
I mean, it definitely did in the early 2000s. You know, I think
Right.
that we had to come back in 2001. I think with
Mhm.
Testament and Exodus coming back
Right.
and all that
Right.
stuff, and Sacred Reich starting to play again, and everybody.
Yep.
Um, and I think when this started, then like 5 years later, we'd have a bunch of cool young bands coming out. It was Municipal Waste coming out, Havoc.
Oh,
Um,
Municipal Waste is badass.
yeah, Warbringer. You know, we had Bonded by Blood, a band from the States, which I loved. And like those bands, you know, they're probably like 5 to 10 years like older than we are, but those bands started to become an influence for us
Oh wow.
because we were like 15, 16 years old, of course, and we were looking for bands and role models that were like, you know, still young but still older than we were.
Hmm.
So I think in that, and that was the time when Traitor in Germany, like Dustbolt, Battle Creek, Anti PV, like Pripyat, a lot of cool thrash bands started to come up. So I think it's always feels like it's coming and going in waves in the music. You know, some genres, sometimes they seem to disappear and suddenly they kind of like come back and you get a new wave. Um, so I'm pretty optimistic that we will have a new wave and a new generation of thrash bands again at some point.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's starting to happen now with some of the music that I've discovered that I have in my Rolodex on my phone. Um, I've heard these some of these younger kids nowadays. I mean, that are younger than you. I mean, are barely out of high school that are doing a lot of this recording in their basements and
Yeah.
setting up their own little studios and the technology they have and whatnot. And some of that stuff is just phenomenal. I mean, I'm just like, I, you would have thought that they were in a big, huge studio. But I
Mm,
think that that's kind of like that technology is kind of taken over some of that, but it's also kind of setting a trend that, some of these younger bands can come up and, they look up to bands like you, like Dustbolt or Trader, or, you know what I mean? And they kind of get a leg up. And some of the stuff that I'm excited that I've heard come out in the last couple months. And so yeah, I'm really pleased with some of the sounds that have been coming out. Let me ask you: is there a band that you personally are rooting for, or that you have a band that you listen to, or like, man, I really like these guys. They're young, they're gonna do well. Do you have somebody in mind that you've been kind of stuck on?
some young band, you mean at the moment?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Probably. I gotta think. I mean, I just stumbled across a band called Morning High from United States because a lot of
yeah.
people were
And I've
telling.
been trying to get them on, and they're very hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, because like people were telling me like you should tour with those guys and you should like kind of like check them out, you know.
Right,
So I was
right.
like interested in that. That was cool. I just listened to two songs. I still gotta like listen to more. But we got one band in here in South, like in Bavaria, South Germany. They're friends of us. They're called Battle Creek, for example.
Okay.
Great thrash band. I love them to death. Great
Hmm.
musicians, great people. They play Wacken this year, their first
Oh,
time.
okay.
So this is really cool. Um, and yeah, there's always some cool bands coming up.
Right, right. So, have you guys been to the states yet?
Yeah, we
Okay.
we played a tour with Obituary, Exodus, and Power Trip in 2017. Then we did another full tour in 2018, and we just did the 70,000 tons of metal cruise. And we're planning to come back for next year and the year after. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, there's been some different tours that I've noticed from different thrash bands. You talked about Exodus, and there's Testament that I've met, and those guys are fantastic. And it's just there's some of that music. and like I've said it before, these older bands like Exodus and Testament and even Sacred Reich, these guys are older now, but they could still jam. I mean, they could
Yeah.
still. I mean, I've heard the New Testament album and I like it. So I mean, it's just I think that there's so many great bands that are up and coming now that it's just I think it's only going to get better. I think it's going to get bigger and it's going to get better, and I'm glad to see that. Like when you were talking about how you were listening to different things when you were growing up. Um, Even some of those regular bands are still touring. Look at some
Yeah.
of those stuff for like Fleetwood Mac and some of that stuff. I mean, there's still some of the band members that are
Yeah.
still doing
And
things.
for me it's like of course I know that there was like this certain peak level of when music of certain music types, of course the 80s were the 80s and the 90s were the 90s, and it was
Right,
beautiful
right.
beautiful times, but I still feel like it doesn't make any sense for me as a musician these days to just like be like, okay, all the good days are over and everything that's coming
Hmm.
up is just gonna be shit. That would be
Right,
like so
right,
pessimistic. It doesn't make any sense
right.
because I feel like, as I said, when I was like 15, it was really important for me to see bands like Havoc or Warbringer like keeping thrash metal alive and still doing it and making their new and kind of like young version out of it. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, cool. They can do it, so I can do it.
Right, right.
So we just started. And so I think, and it's the same thing nowadays, if we can make something that is inspiring to some 16-year-old kid, and if he's going to pick up the guitar because he loved that song or he saw that video,
Hmm.
that's the best thing that we can do. That's
Yeah.
all what it's about,
Right,
to
right.
inspire other people to make music and keep making music and keep creating music, keep listening to music, keep
Yep.
supporting music, because
Hmm.
music is just a beautiful thing.
Right, right.
And
It's
that won't change. I mean, the industry sucks. It does. And
I wasn't gonna say it, but
streaming sucks for the artist. Definitely.
right,
Studios
right.
closed down and people
Hmm.
don't make music anymore in studios where they're all together in one room, um,
Right.
exchanging ideas. That kind of like sucks, but it doesn't change the fact that there are still kids out there who just need to express themselves by music,
Hmm.
you know, and
Right,
that
right.
won't change at all.
Was that something like for you too? Or was that way when you discovered music? Was that something like you thought of this as a way for me to express myself, or is it just your love of music?
No, absolutely. It was 100%. I think it was 100% expressing myself. I didn't realize it back then. I didn't know.
Hmm.
I was just
Right.
doing, it was just like a need to do it. It just happened
Hmm.
naturally. But looking back, like, and even like reading lyrics like we wrote or I wrote 10 years ago, um, and I look back, it's like, oh yes, I actually really needed that. I needed to express
Right.
some
Right.
stuff in there. I needed metal music to get rid of some stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm really glad I had that because, like, all my life, I was like a really like calm person, and
Hmm.
people were like, "Hey, I don't get it because you're like kind of like a calm person, and when you're on stage, you're just totally freak." And the cool thing is, so yeah, that's what metal can. That's the
Right.
cool metal thing, You get
Right.
there to the metal place and you just start freaking out and headbanging and mosh pit and circle pit, and you
Right.
just go
Right.
crazy, let it all out, and that makes me a really like more balanced person in everyday life.
Right. Right.
So that's a good. I mean, yeah, that's why I think metal is great.
Hmm. Hmm. So tell me when the first time. What was your first experience in a mosh pit? I've always asked people this. I just wondered what was your first impression and your experience in a mosh pit.
Like, I think I was scared at first. I remember I was really young and I was standing there and I knew it would start at some point. I knew it would
Right,
happen, but I didn't know what would gonna be happen because I saw all the videos of like people just beating the shit out of each other, like
right,
beating in their
right.
face and stuff, and I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
crap, I'm gonna die." But
Yeah.
still I wanted to do it, of course. And I remember when it started, it was like something I'd never experienced before because it was like this whole crowd was starting to move and the energy and the adrenaline and
Mhm.
this but still that's the cool thing, still this kind of like togetherness, it was everybody together. It was like not a fight like everyone against everyone. It was like no, all together with the music.
Right, right, right.
And it was so cool. I loved it
Yeah.
from first
Do you
first
remember
time. Yeah,
who, what band you were seeing that when you experienced that?
I don't remember the first time, but I remember there was like two times I remember it was really early that kind of like, you know, changed my mind. It was seeing Suicidal Tendencies the first
Okay,
time. I
okay,
didn't know the band. I didn't know stuff like that existed,
right.
like their whole image and the
Hmm.
funk thing going on and like the crossover thing. I and when they started, it just snapped and I was just
Right.
running into the pit and never
Yeah.
stopped. I think it was that, and I saw Lamb of God when I was,
Okay.
I don't know, quite young,
Yeah.
2006, 2005 or something probably, and there was also a moment I remember, yeah, in a mosh pit, yeah.
I think the first time I remember that for mine was Overkill,
Oh yeah,
and that was the first time I ever crowd surfed, and
yeah,
that was an experience. So, um, but yeah, I mean, it was just once you're in that, gosh, it's just it's something that takes over,
yeah,
and once you get in that mosh pit, once you get in that circle, once you commit to it, it's all bets are off. I mean,
yeah,
I got beat up pretty good a couple times, but it was worth it. It
absolutely.
was it was totally it was the energy was just chaotic, but it was almost like a controlled energy. I
Yeah,
mean, it's really kind of hard to explain, but that type of music, and I mean, even nowadays, I mean, even back in the day when you would see some bands that weren't even really that heavy, there'd be some type of circle or mosh pit going out, and
yeah,
it's like that to me is an idea of it's crazy, but it's also togetherness, and I guess that's the way I kind of relate that to that.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I've talked to
absolutely.
enough of my friends that have experienced that. But so tell me a little bit about your daily routine.
I wish I had one. um
uh,
I mean, it depends. Like my life is really not a routine in terms of like, every day looks differently for me. That's
mhm,
absolutely the way it is, but that's how I like it and how I want it to be. I don't have a 9 to 5 classic job.
right.
Um but every I try no, I'm not even trying. Like it's something that needs to work out for me. It's like that every day is somehow related to music. That's like the first priority is
Hmm.
it somehow has to do with music.
Hmm.
Whatever that means. That means if I gotta work a day job, I'm gonna make sure after the day job I'm gonna make music, or before, or the day job has to do something with music. Mine
Hmm.
has, which is cool. So I think the routine thing is that music is always present. It's really busy these days. Like with Dust Bowl, we're independent now at the moment. We have no label, so we are our own label. We do the promotion by ourselves. We record ourselves. We write ourselves. We produce ourselves. We release ourselves. We do the merch ourselves. We do some of like the management ourselves. We do some of the booking ourselves. That's a lot of work. and I have some studio projects I'm working on and some other stuff going on. And so I think another routine would be we got a kind of like a studio that we built, a rehearsal space studio for Dust Bowl. And whenever we go there, which is as often as possible, also on the weekends, there's always stuff to do. You know, there's always like a song to record, something to play, like stuff to be sent, whatever. There's always stuff
Hmm.
to do.
Hmm. Wow.
So it's kind of like we're really working our ass off
It sounds
to
like it.
to make to keep this thing going and keep it alive. Yeah,
Hmm.
and to keep music being a big part in our lives. That's what I told you like in the beginning. We started being 13 and we had this band, and the band was always there throughout our entire life.
Hmm.
And at some point we had, of course, like some kind of like had to make the decision, what do we do? Do we get rid of the band and just start like everybody starts his own life without the band, or do we keep the band and build everything around? And we kind of like did that.
Yeah.
So for me,
Right.
it's the thing I love. It's I do it with my friends. I
Right.
love the metal scene. I love the people. I love music. You know, it's
Right.
like
Right.
it's a passion. It's the main thing,
Right.
and everything else is built around.
It works.
Yeah, it's. I
You know.
think. I hope so. You know.
Yeah. But it's and when you talk about that, it sounds more like when you built it around the band, it sounds like more like family.
Yeah.
I mean, it just that whole where you have different extensions of each member,
Yeah.
but you still have that tight knit,
Yeah.
family aspect, which is now it's cool to see and it's cool to have. And even I remember, growing up listening to bands who would break up over the dumbest things, and it's like now there's things that have changed. Some bands may still do that, but I just think that from the way you just described it, it sounds like you have a solid core of a family there, and I think that that is really cool. You know,
Absolutely. I mean, you never know what happens, you know, and if
right?
it's healthy, it's healthy when changes take place at some point.
Right.
So it's not like we're not like trying to keep it together on a like really um in
Kind
a
of strict
way.
level.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
kind of
been
carefree. I mean, and the way you're describing it is kind of like it just happens, man.
it just happens, and it's just like we're four people we spend like the most time of our lives together. You know, we've been best friends, we live together, we spend all the
Hmm.
time with the band together, we grew up together, and we try to develop as people together. And all that happens with us being together in the rehearsal room, with us being together playing shows, with
Hmm.
us being together writing songs, you know. So it's kind of like we have something where we can put it in there. We have this place which is like Dust Bowl in the music, where we can just meet as friends and try to do our thing together.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's a really beautiful thing. I mean for us, it's still, we're really glad we made this happen over the last couple of years, because everything we experienced together as a band, we all also experienced as best friends, which is a cool thing,
That is a cool thing.
because you share so many cool stories with like
Mhm.
people you love, and that's a really cool thing.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, talking about some of the places that you've played, even abroad um, in Europe, is there a venue that you really truly enjoy returning to?
Oh, there's many. There's many in in
Pick
different
take your
in,
top three.
in different ways. There's many. Okay, top three in Europe or all over the world?
In Europe, let's go with Europe first.
Let's go with Europe first. Okay. Oh, let me think. So
Not to put
Mm,
you on the spot, but I've always wanted to know what certain bands, their venues were favorites.
yeah. I mean, oh, one thing I would say that pops up into my mind is I love playing in Essen in Germany, which is the Ruhrpott pot area, which is the home of Creator and Destruction
Right, right, right.
and Sodom.
Okay.
It's different. It's a different area from where I grew up, but I love it there. I love the people there, and I love the energy there. And the German thrash movement was born there.
Uh-huh.
So if you go there and play a thrash concert, it's so cool. There's so many thrasher people. There's so many metalheads in this town. So the
Right.
venue is called Turok, and they always have some kind of free entry open air going in front of the Turok once a year. So you got 3, 4,000 metalheads just coming there, having a good time. Bands are playing. I absolutely love that. I think it's a really cool thing. It's a really cool thing for the German metal scene. It's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
this is the one of the greatest parts of German metal scene.
Right.
I mean, of course, playing Wacken open air is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
As a German band in Germany, playing Wacken is really, you know, it's a really welcoming festival and a welcoming audience. That's a great thing, of course. And what also pops up into my mind is in Switzerland, there's a venue called Z7 in
Okay.
Pratteln.
Okay.
And it's just beautiful. It's just a great venue.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just, yeah.
It sounds like you've had some favorites and some great memories of some of those venues. But when you talk about where creators from, and I grew up listening to Creator, and it's just that's one band that I always thought, that's part of the heart of the thrash from Germany is Creator.
Hmm.
You know, even Sodom. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's just when you talk about that, it's just like I never got to see Creator, but there's been so many bands that I have seen and whatnot. But when you talk about these places in Europe, and it sounds like the more you're more closer to the German festival of that, which is understandable. You know what I mean? But when you talk about Switzerland, your eyes lit up and you're like, it's beautiful there, you know? So there's got to be, and I'm sure that there's lots of other places, but I've always wanted to know this, and this might be a little bit off topic, but being from Germany, assuming, I mean, were you born in Germany?
No, I was born in Austria.
Okay. But you still speak German.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what was the decision when German bands come out and they do their songs in English? Why is that? I've always wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a tough, it's a really interesting question. You could probably talk hours about this. And I know what you mean because I thought about this too, of course.
Uh-huh.
Because me and some other friends of mine who are great musicians, great
Uh-huh.
songwriters, we had the same discussion. I was asking them, "Hey, did you ever try and write a song in German?"
Right.
And he was like, "No, I think I can't do it." And I feel like, yeah, it's weird, right? It would feel weird, but why? So I think the thing is, we grew up with a lot of American music on the
Right.
radio,
Right.
um, more American music than like native speaking music.
Uh-huh.
Then we and always had struggle and trouble with our language in terms of for years before I was born, probably, it felt wrong to sing or talk German as this was like the language of the Nazis.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So we have this, we have this big issue with guilt and shame going on.
Right, right,
So it was a really difficult thing to be singing in German and finding a way to do it.
right.
Um, that is something very difficult for a lot of people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why everybody just started to speak English or sing in English because it was
Mm-hmm.
safe. It was kind of like safe.
Right, 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 right.
Um, you have bands like Rammstein who, for example, play with that kind of like
Yeah.
aesthetic because they kind of like speak the way
Uh-huh.
they speak that German that everybody thinks Germans speak.
Right.
Um, and they play with that aesthetic, which is a really like intelligent move to do. So they kind of like took the cliche of the German language and made something out of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, it's a really harsh language with a lot of like es ist eine sehr strenge Sprache. It's
Yeah.
like really heavy. It's not like it doesn't have like a flow, not
It
that
doesn't
kind of like
flow.
flow.
Right. There's a
It's
lot of
really
stop and ending.
exactly. It's really
Yep.
rhythmic, a lot of
Yep.
stopping,
Yep.
ending,
Yeah.
and for us in Germany, if somebody sings or speaks in German combined with rock music, it's really everybody's skeptic and everybody's like, let's see if this is like not some
Right.
cringe. It's always like we feel always like, it doesn't sound good. It just sounds
Right.
like shit.
Yeah. I've always wondered that. Are there thrash bands that do sing in German? Are there any bands that do that you know of?
No thrash bands at all.
Okay.
Some metal bands, yeah, some rock bands, and we got like Deutschrock, which is like German rock, which is its own genre.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Yeah. Yeah.
most like all metal, it's
Yeah.
all English. It's all
Yeah.
English.
I've always wondered that. The way you explained it makes sense. Um, and I wondered if that was still kind of a shame thing too. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm part German. My grandfather was German. So I just you have to kind of ask that question: was it because of this or because of this, or do you
yeah.
just not ask that question? Do you just like it is what it is? This is the way it is. We sing in
N-
English. Everybody's happy.
no, I think if I could back to the beginning and start off new again, I might choose to speak German. Um, like write in German
Hmm.
because I think it would be interesting to see what happens.
I do too. I mean, I
Um,
just and I would not put those two of the shame or whatever
no,
um, together. I think that being individual and being unique and being German and be able to speak German and English, I would be curious what a German song would sound like from you guys. I mean, just that. I mean, just saying. You know what I mean? I mean,
absolutely, yeah. I'm
you
still
know.
thinking of doing it at some point. Yeah, I'm waiting.
So
I mean,
I wouldn't give it up.
we just had the second single we just put out, Super Go.
Yep, I
It
love it.
I mean the lyrics they're in English, but the main like the title Super Go, it's a German word, and it was like the first time I think like it was the first try maybe of
Hmm.
like taking a German word and putting it as a song title, and it felt
Okay.
really good. So maybe that was the
I
start of
don't think you should
something.
give that up, man. I think
Yeah,
maybe you should throw one in there every once in a while. I think that
yeah,
maybe some, German fans would be glad to hear
yeah,
somebody going back to their roots somewhat and to put out something that was different, you know, maybe be a trend center. I don't know,
yeah.
you
It's a good
know.
idea, man. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna think about it after this
Okay.
this
Yeah.
interview. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. I
I
like
mean,
that.
yeah. I mean, I just was always curious, and
Yeah,
I
it's
just
a
had to
it's a
ask that.
great question. It's a really
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
great question.
So going back over across the pond, you had three in Europe. Was there any? How many places have you been in the United States?
Oh, we played both times we played a 5 week tour, so we've been like all over the place, more or
Okay.
less.
So what's your three favorite?
Oh, I remember in Detroit we played what is it called? The theater. is it called the Orf? No,
The Orpheum.
yeah, I think the Orpheum in Detroit.
Okay.
I love that one. I remember in Chicago we played the Metro.
Yeah.
That was great.
How about the Raven in Milwaukee?
Oh, we didn't play there. We didn't
Oh,
play.
you got to play the Raven.
We didn't
Oh
play Milwaukee.
man, and that place is severely haunted as well.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. I've been trying to get in there to do an investigation for a long time,
Wow.
but I need a camera crew in tow to be able to do that. So yeah, I've been really wanting to do that. But yeah, the rave is really cool.
Cool.
Old part of Milwaukee. Um, have you've been on the West Coast? You've been to San Francisco?
Yes, we've been.
Okay,
Yeah. I
okay,
don't remember. I don't remember the name of the venue in San Francisco that we played, but I love playing in Sacramento. We had a great show with Sacramento, which was cool because it was the guys from Exodus. I think they're from
yeah,
there.
hmm,
So it was kind of like a hometown town show, and everybody came out. That was really cool. That was great.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, Exodus and Death Angel, like I don't know, Testament, and then you've got Violence. Love
yeah,
Violence. I grew up listening to them. I wore their album out. Like, yeah, their second album was the best too. And so it's like now that they have some songs coming out as of late, and I've been also trying to get in touch with those guys because I'd love to touch and get in touch with those guys. But we talked a little bit about being over here in the United States. Um, what is your go-to food when you're over here in the United States?
Oh, so I'm vegetarian.
Oh,
So I cannot take part in like the probably unbelievable tasty and great beef and
uh huh.
steak culture, which I feel
Yeah.
like I'm a stupid idiot doing that, but sometimes you
No, it's
just
to
no,
each
I
his
just
own. You know.
yeah, I just I make decisions and I just stick with them. That's how I am. So I'm totally fine with it. I appreciate like I can enjoy if like other people enjoy eating good meat. I feel I enjoy seeing them being like happy. I
Right.
can
No, that makes sense.
I'm glad for them. So
Right.
but what I love in the United States is I love Mexican food.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
especially on the West Coast, you know, all Mexican food as a vegetarian is really it's and
yeah,
yeah, I love it so much. I love it so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I totally get that. What about in Europe? Do you have a place that you go to in Europe that you really like?
I mean, we are close to Italy here, so
Okay.
it's not too far to Italy. So we love pasta and pizza, of course. Um,
Right.
and we do love
Yeah.
some traditional food, some traditional Austrian and German stuff.
Right.
Knödel. I don't know if you know Knödel.
I don't.
Um, it's a thing. It's really a thing here. But it's no, I think the most part is Italian food. It's kind of like Italian food, pasta, pizza.
Right.
Um, that's my favorite go-tos. I grew up with that.
Right. Now, have you ever played in Italy?
Oh yeah, yeah, we did, but they don't have like such a big live metal music
Hmm.
scene. There's like they don't have that infrastructure. There's not that many festivals, there's not that many venues, there's not that many people showing up, which is super sad because
Hmm.
Italy is a great country and there's some
Hmm.
cool bands in
Yeah.
Italy, great bands. But when I talk to them, they're always like, there's nothing going on here. It's nothing really like there's no real scene or infrastructure developing or something. So
Is that the similar with Greece?
might be, yeah. We just played Greece one time, I think, in Athens. We played one time. That was the only time it was in Greece. But yeah, it's great countries, great musicians, but they don't
scene
have,
is just isn't
yeah,
there.
they don't have that type of scene as we have here in Germany, where you have so many festivals and so many stuff going on and venues in every city. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you've got your kind of like get your pick of where you want to play, and
Yeah,
that is when you love what you do and you're able to do all these things. I mean, it just makes life so much better. It makes life more easier. You know,
absolutely.
but so I get to about the time, but I want to thank you for coming on, man. This has been a great conversation, and I could talk to you for another hour. It's just you guys are a great band, and I tell a lot of people about them,
Cool.
and my good friend who loves thrash metal and music, and he likes you guys a lot, and he used to play drums, so I know what he's talking about when he says it's good music. So, but I want to thank you for coming on, and are finally getting down to brass tacks and talking about Dust Bowl. So
Thank you very much for having me. That was
yeah,
fun.
and we'll have to do this again. I mean, I'm open to have multiple bands on multiple times because I love talking to you guys. You guys are great.
Cool, man. Thank you very
So
much. You just hit me up, and I think um I can't announce it yet, but we just teamed up with some partners in the US in order
oh,
to bring Dust Bowl back
okay.
to the US next year. So I hope we gonna
Well,
meet.
yeah, you got my email, so when you're close by, or even if you're in the U.S., let me know, and
Yeah,
it'd be great to talk to you guys, in person,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
whatnot. But yeah,
Cool.
so hang out for a minute. I'm gonna close this out and then finish up, and then we'll be on our way. All right, everybody. Thanks for having this sit down with us and having everybody check this out on wherever you get your podcast. It'll be on YouTube live right now. So yeah, thanks everybody.